Hey guys, tonight we're diving into something that might hit a little too close to home. You're lying there, maybe scrolling through your phone at 2 in the morning, telling yourself you'll sleep in just 5 more minutes. Or perhaps you've been tossing and turning for hours, your mind racing with tomorrow's worries while your body screams for rest. Sound familiar? Well, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely find value in what we explore here together. And let me know in the comments how many hours of sleep you got last night and what time it is where you are right now. It's always fascinating to see our global community of night owls and insomniacs. Now, dim the lights, maybe grab a warm drink, and let's take a journey inside your own body. Because tonight, we're not traveling to medieval times or ancient civilizations. We're going somewhere even more extraordinary and infinitely more personal. Inside you, during the slow-motion catastrophe of sleep deprivation. Congratulations, you've just entered a body that hasn't slept properly in days. The good news is, you're still breathing. The bad news is, everything else is quietly falling apart. Your brain is drowning in its own waste, your immune cells are abandoning their posts, and your very DNA is beginning to unravel. This isn't dramatic fiction. This is what happens inside your body every single night you choose to stay awake. Welcome to biological chaos, where sleep isn't just rest. And without it, you're about to discover just how quickly the most sophisticated machine in the known universe begins to tear itself apart from the inside out. It's been 6 hours since you last slept, and right now, inside your skull, something extraordinary is happening. Your brain is literally drowning, not in water, but in its own waste. And the cleanup crew that should be working overtime, they've gone on strike. Welcome to your glymphatic system, the brain's most crucial janitor that you've probably never heard of. Think of it as your neural waste management service, a network of tiny channels that run alongside your blood vessels, carrying cerebrospinal fluid through your brain tissue like a gentle, cleansing river. When you sleep, this system kicks into overdrive, flushing out the metabolic garbage that accumulates during your waking hours. But here's the problem. You're awake, and every minute you stay conscious, that river is slowing to a trickle. The channels that should be wide open, allowing fluid to sweep through your brain tissue, are now constricted. It's like trying to clean a house with a garden hose that's been pinched nearly shut. The dirt just keeps piling up. What kind of dirt, you ask? Proteins with names that sound like villains from a science fiction movie. Beta amyloid, tau, alpha-synuclein. These are the molecular leftovers of normal brain function, the cellular exhaust from thinking, remembering, and simply being conscious. In a healthy, well-rested brain, they're swept away each night like trash on collection day. But in your sleep-deprived state, they're beginning to accumulate in the spaces between your neurons like garbage bags piling up on a forgotten street corner. 0. 7. You might be thinking, so what? A little neural clutter never hurt anyone, right? Wrong. This isn't just untidiness. Beta amyloid plaques are the hallmark of Alzheimer's disease. Tau tangle-strangle neurons from the inside. Alpha-synuclein clumps are linked to Parkinson's disease. Every hour you stay awake, you're essentially giving these molecular troublemakers more time to set up shop in your brain. But the immediate effects are just as alarming. That fog rolling through your thoughts right now, that's not just tiredness. Your neurons are literally struggling to communicate through the toxic sludge building up around them. Synapses that should fire crisp, clean signals are now sending messages through what feels like mental molasses. Your brain waves, normally organized and purposeful, are becoming erratic. The electrical symphony that orchestrates your consciousness is starting to sound like a broken radio. Delta waves, which should only appear during deep sleep, begin sneaking into your waking brain patterns. This is your neural tissue desperately trying to initiate microsleep. Those brief moments where parts of your brain simply shut down without permission. Picture this. You're sitting at your desk and suddenly you realize you've been staring at the same sentence for 5 minutes without reading it. That's not lack of focus. That's regions of your brain literally falling asleep while you're awake, like individual musicians in an orchestra suddenly stopping mid-performance. Your frontal cortex, responsible for executive function and decision-making, is particularly vulnerable. It's struggling to maintain the complex neural networks that keep you alert, focused, and mentally sharp. The cerebrospinal fluid that should be carrying away these toxins is now moving at a fraction of its normal speed. During deep sleep, this fluid increases its flow rate by 60%. But in your current state, it's barely trickling through your brain tissue. Imagine trying to rinse soap out of your hair with a barely functioning shower head. The soap just sits there, building up, making everything sticky and dysfunctional. Your astrocytes, the star-shaped brain cells that normally shrink during sleep to create wider channels for fluid flow, are stubbornly maintaining their daytime size. They're like workers who refuse to step aside and let the cleaning crew through. The result is that the spaces between your brain cells remain narrow, severely limiting the brain's ability to flush out metabolic waste. Meanwhile, your blood-brain barrier, that crucial protective fence that keeps toxins out of your neural tissue, is beginning to show signs of stress. Sleep deprivation makes this barrier more permeable, allowing substances that should stay in your bloodstream to leak into your brain. It's like having a security system that's slowly failing, letting uninvited guests wander through your most protected spaces. And here's the cruel irony. The more exhausted you become, the harder it becomes to actually fall asleep. Your brain, flooded with stress hormones and metabolic waste, is simultaneously craving rest and becoming less capable of achieving it. It's like being desperately thirsty while standing next to a water fountain that's just out of reach. Every neuron in your head is now operating in crisis mode, struggling to maintain basic functions while drowning in their own cellular exhaust. Your brain, the 3-pound universe that contains all your memories, dreams, and thoughts, is slowly suffocating in the very waste it creates by thinking. So as you sit there, perhaps feeling that familiar mental cloudiness creeping in, remember, this isn't just being tired. This is your brain's sophisticated waste management system grinding to a halt, and the cleanup crew won't return until you finally surrender to sleep. 12 hours without sleep, and your brain has just started performing a magic trick. But it's not the entertaining kind. It's the kind where your memories simply vanish into thin air, and you're left wondering if they ever existed at all. Right now, deep inside your temporal lobe sits a small seahorse-shaped structure called the hippocampus. Don't let its whimsical name fool you. This is your brain's master librarian, the keeper of your personal history, the place where moments transform into memories. And at this very moment, it's having what can only be described as a complete organizational breakdown. Picture your hippocampus as the world's most sophisticated filing system. Every experience, every face, every conversation gets processed here before being carefully catalogued and stored in your long-term memory banks. But sleep deprivation has just walked into this pristine library and started throwing books everywhere. The careful indexing system that normally operates with clockwork precision is now stumbling around like a drunk librarian in the dark. Here's what's happening on a cellular level. Your hippocampal neurons communicate through intricate patterns of electrical activity, creating what scientists call theta rhythms. These brainwaves, oscillating at 4 to 8 cycles per second, are essential for encoding new memories. Think of them as the rhythm that helps your brain decide what's worth remembering and what can be forgotten. But after 12 hours without sleep, these theta rhythms are becoming irregular, like a drummer who's forgotten the beat. The process of memory consolidation, where temporary experiences become permanent memories, requires a delicate dance between your hippocampus and your neocortex. During the deep, slow-wave phases of sleep, your hippocampus replays the day's experiences, sending them to your cortex for long-term storage. It's like transferring files from your computer's temporary folder to permanent storage. But you've been awake for 12 hours straight, which means this crucial transfer process hasn't happened. Yesterday's experiences are still sitting in your brain's temporary storage, waiting for a file transfer that may never come. You might have noticed this already. Try to remember what you had for lunch yesterday, or the name of that person you met at work last week, or even where you put your keys an hour ago. That frustrating tip-of-the-tongue feeling isn't just annoying. It's your hippocampus struggling to access information that should be readily available. The neural pathways that normally light up when you try to recall information are now firing erratically, like a city where half the street lights have gone out. But it gets worse. Sleep deprivation doesn't just affect your ability to form new memories, it actively corrupts the memories you already have. Your brain, desperate for the memory consolidation that only happens during sleep, starts making mistakes. It begins connecting unrelated experiences, filling in gaps with false information, and distorting the emotional content of your memories. That argument you had with your partner yesterday? Your sleep-deprived brain might be making it seem more intense than it actually was. That presentation you gave last week? You might remember it as a disaster when it was actually perfectly fine. The protein synthesis required for long-term memory formation is also taking a hit. Your neurons need to build new proteins to strengthen synaptic connections, essentially creating the physical foundation for memories. But sleep deprivation disrupts this process, like trying to build a house while someone keeps stealing your building materials. The memories you're trying to form today simply don't have the molecular infrastructure to become permanent. Meanwhile, your brain's ability to distinguish between important and unimportant information is breaking down. Normally, your hippocampus acts like a bouncer at an exclusive club, deciding which experiences deserve the VIP treatment of long-term storage. But sleep deprivation has essentially fired the bouncer. Now, everything is trying to get in at once, overwhelming your memory systems and making it impossible to prioritize what's actually worth remembering. Your working memory, the mental workspace where you temporarily hold and manipulate information, is also suffering. This is why you might read the same paragraph 3 times without comprehending it, or start a sentence and forget what you were trying to say halfway through. It's like having a desk where papers keep sliding off before you can organize them. Your prefrontal cortex, which normally manages this workspace with military precision, is now operating with the efficiency of a broken computer. The really insidious part is that you might not even realize how impaired your memory has become. Sleep deprivation affects your metacognition, your ability to accurately assess your own mental state. You might feel like you're functioning normally while your memory systems are quietly falling apart behind the scenes. It's like driving a car with faulty brakes while the brake warning light is broken too. And here's the cruelest twist of all. The more sleep-deprived you become, the less likely you are to remember how much your memory has deteriorated. Your brain, in its compromised state, simply doesn't encode these moments of confusion and forgetfulness. You're experiencing memory loss while being unable to remember that you're experiencing memory loss. Your hippocampus, that faithful keeper of your personal history, is now sending out distress signals. Stress hormones are flooding the region, further impairing its ability to function. The delicate balance of neurotransmitters that normally orchestrate memory formation is becoming chaotic. Each passing hour without sleep is like adding more static to a radio signal, making it harder and harder to tune into the clear frequency of coherent thought. So when you find yourself standing in a room, wondering why you came there, or struggling to remember the name of someone you've known for years, remember, this isn't just a minor inconvenience. Your brain's master filing system is in complete disarray, and the librarian has officially given up trying to keep track of anything at all. 18 hours without sleep, and something primal is stirring in the depths of your brain. Your emotions, once civilized and controlled, have just declared war on your rational mind. And guess which side is winning? Deep in your limbic system, nestled like a pair of small almonds behind your eyes, sit two structures that are about to hijack your entire personality. Meet your amygdalae, the ancient guardians of survival that have kept humans alive for millions of years. They're designed to detect threats, trigger fear, and flood your system with the raw emotions needed to fight or flee. Right now, after 18 hours without sleep, they're acting like smoke detectors with dying batteries, going off at the slightest provocation. You've probably felt this already. That moment when someone asks you a simple question and you snap at them with unexpected venom. Or when a minor inconvenience, like spilling coffee or hitting a red light, suddenly feels like a personal attack from the universe. That's not your personality changing. That's your amygdalae operating without adult supervision. Here's what's happening inside your skull. Normally, your prefrontal cortex, the sophisticated CEO of your brain, keeps your amygdalae in check. It's like having a wise mediator who can step in when emotions run high and say, "Let's think about this rationally." But sleep deprivation has just sent your prefrontal cortex on an extended coffee break. The neural connections between your rational mind and your emotional centers are weakening with every hour you stay awake. Scientists have measured this using brain imaging, and the results are striking. After just 18 hours without sleep, the communication between your amygdalae and your prefrontal cortex decreases by 60%. It's like having a raging fire with no firefighters to put it out. Your emotions are burning through your consciousness unchecked, turning minor irritations into major catastrophes. But it's not just anger that's being amplified. Your entire emotional spectrum is becoming distorted. That melancholy song on the radio might suddenly bring you to tears. A colleague's neutral expression might strike you as deeply hostile. A friend's casual comment might feel like a devastating rejection. Your brain, desperate for the emotional regulation that only comes during REM sleep, is misinterpreting social cues and amplifying emotional responses like a broken amplifier cranked up to 11. The neurotransmitters that normally keep your mood stable are also falling apart. Serotonin, your brain's natural mood stabilizer, starts depleting after prolonged wakefulness. Dopamine, the chemical that helps you feel pleasure and motivation, becomes erratic. GABA, the neurotransmitter that keeps anxiety at bay, can't keep up with demand. It's like trying to maintain emotional balance while someone keeps messing with the controls. Your stress hormone system has also gone haywire. Cortisol, which should follow a natural daily rhythm, is now flooding your system at inappropriate times. This chronic elevation creates a state of hypervigilance where everything feels threatening. Your nervous system is stuck in fight or flight mode, scanning for dangers that don't exist and preparing for battles that don't need to be fought. The really disturbing part is how this affects your empathy. The same brain networks that help you understand and share the feelings of others are the ones that require the most energy and the clearest thinking. When you're sleep deprived, your ability to read facial expressions diminishes dramatically. You might interpret a neutral face as angry, a concerned expression as contemptuous, or miss entirely when someone is trying to communicate distress. This emotional dysregulation creates a vicious cycle. Your heightened emotional responses stress your brain even further, making it even harder to achieve the deep sleep needed for emotional recovery. You become trapped in a state where your emotions are too intense for your rational mind to handle, while your rational mind is too exhausted to provide the guidance your emotions desperately need. Your brain's ability to form positive memories is also compromised. The hippocampus, already struggling with basic memory formation, becomes even less effective at encoding pleasant experiences when your emotional systems are chaotic. This means you're more likely to remember the negative interactions from today while the positive ones fade into obscurity, creating a skewed perception of reality where everything seems worse than it actually island. Meanwhile, your social cognition, the sophisticated mental ability that helps you navigate complex relationships, is deteriorating rapidly. You might find yourself saying things you don't mean, misreading situations, or responding inappropriately to social cues. The parts of your brain that usually help you consider how your words and actions affect others are running on fumes. The evolutionary irony is striking. Your amygdalae evolved to keep you safe, but in our modern world, their hair-trigger responses to sleep deprivation often create more problems than they solve. Road rage, workplace conflicts, damaged relationships, poor decisions made in the heat of the moment. These aren't character flaws. They're the predictable result of ancient survival mechanisms operating in a sleep-deprived brain. Your emotional memory is also becoming corrupted. Events from today will be stored with exaggerated emotional content, meaning you'll remember them as more intense than they actually were. That disagreement with your partner will feel more bitter in your memory than it was in reality. That embarrassing moment will seem more humiliating when you recall it later. Sleep deprivation isn't just affecting how you feel now. It's distorting how you'll remember feeling. As the hours tick by, your emotional world becomes increasingly unstable. Joy feels hollow, sadness feels overwhelming, and anger burns brighter than it should. Your brain, designed to process emotions during the dreaming phases of sleep, is accumulating an emotional backlog that grows more chaotic with each passing hour. So when you find yourself snapping at loved ones or feeling overwhelmed by emotions that seem disproportionate to their triggers, remember, your emotional control center has been hijacked by exhaustion, and the rational part of your mind that could help has temporarily left the building. 24 hours without sleep, and your body has just raised the white flag of surrender. But it's not your muscles or your mind giving up this time. It's your immune system, the invisible army that's been protecting you from every virus, bacteria, and pathogen you've encountered today. And right now, those soldiers are deserting their posts en masse. Picture your immune system as the most sophisticated security force ever devised. Millions of specialized cells patrol your bloodstream, lymph nodes, and tissues, each with a specific job. Some act as scouts, identifying threats. Others serve as soldiers, attacking invaders. Still others work as intelligence officers, remembering past enemies and preparing for future battles. This entire operation runs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, keeping you alive without you ever noticing, until now. Sleep deprivation has just walked into this military operation and dismissed half the troops. Your T cells, the elite special forces of your immune system, are the first casualties. These remarkable cells normally multiply and strengthen during deep sleep, preparing for whatever biological challenges tomorrow might bring. But after a full day without rest, their production has plummeted by 70%. It's like having a factory that normally produces 1,000 soldiers suddenly manufacturing only 300. Your natural killer cells, the rapid response team that hunts down virus-infected cells and cancer cells, are also going offline. These cellular assassins normally patrol your body with ruthless efficiency, destroying threats before they can establish a foothold, but sleep deprivation has essentially put them into a coma. They're still present in your bloodstream, but they're moving sluggishly and attacking half-heartedly, like security guards who've been drugged. Meanwhile, your antibody production, the process that creates the molecular weapons needed to fight specific infections, has become erratic. B cells, the factories that manufacture these protein missiles, need the hormonal signals that primarily occur during sleep to function properly. Without adequate rest, they're like weapons manufacturers trying to operate without electricity. The quality and quantity of antibodies they produce drops dramatically. But here's where it gets really insidious. Sleep deprivation doesn't just weaken your immune system, it actively turns it against you. Your inflammatory response, normally a precise surgical strike against threats, becomes a chaotic carpet bombing of your own tissues. Cytokines, the chemical messengers that coordinate immune responses, start flooding your system inappropriately. It's like having a fire department that not only fails to put out fires, but also starts setting new ones. This inflammatory chaos affects every system in your body. Your blood vessels become more permeable, allowing inflammatory molecules to leak into tissues where they don't belong. Your joints ache, not because you've injured them, but because your immune system is attacking them. Your skin becomes more sensitive because inflammatory cells are patrolling just beneath the surface, ready to overreact to the slightest irritation. Your lymph nodes, the command centers where immune cells gather to share intelligence and coordinate responses, are also struggling. These small, bean-shaped structures normally buzz with activity during sleep, processing the day's encounters and updating your immune memory. But without rest, they're operating like overwhelmed emergency rooms during a disaster, unable to properly process the influx of information about potential threats. The really frightening part is how quickly this deterioration accelerates. Every virus particle you breathe in, every bacteria on the doorknob you touch, every potentially cancerous cell that forms in your body now has a much better chance of establishing itself. Your immune surveillance, normally vigilant and thorough, has become sporadic and ineffective. It's like having a security system where half the cameras are offline and the remaining guards are falling asleep at their posts. Your vaccination responses are also compromised. If you received a flu shot last month, your sleep-deprived immune system may not be maintaining the antibody levels needed for protection. The immune memory that vaccines rely on requires regular maintenance during sleep, and that maintenance has been suspended. Your body is essentially forgetting how to defend itself against threats it should remember. Stress hormones, particularly cortisol, are making everything worse. These chemicals, elevated due to sleep deprivation, actively suppress immune function. It's like having a general who, instead of rallying the troops, keeps telling them to stand down. Cortisol interferes with T-cell activation, reduces antibody production, and impairs the communication between different immune cell types. Your gut microbiome, the trillion bacteria that help train and support your immune system, is also suffering. Sleep deprivation alters the composition of these beneficial microbes, reducing the ones that help maintain immune balance and allowing harmful ones to proliferate. Since roughly 70% of your immune system is located in your gut, this disruption has cascading effects throughout your body. The timing couldn't be worse. Your circadian rhythm normally coordinates your immune system's daily activities, ramping up certain functions during the day and others at night. But sleep deprivation has scrambled this biological clock, leaving your immune cells confused about when to be active and when to rest. They're like soldiers who've lost their synchronized watches and can no longer coordinate their attacks. Your bone marrow, the factory where new immune cells are born, is also slowing down production. The growth factors and hormones that stimulate the creation of fresh white blood cells are primarily released during deep sleep. Without this nightly manufacturing boost, your immune system is like an army that's losing soldiers faster than it can recruit new ones. Perhaps most alarming is how sleep deprivation affects your immune system's ability to distinguish between friend and foe. Autoimmune responses, where your immune cells attack your own healthy tissues, become more likely when sleep deprivation disrupts the delicate balance of regulatory signals. Your body's defense system starts treating your own organs like foreign invaders. So, as you sit there, perhaps feeling perfectly fine despite your exhaustion, remember that a microscopic war is being lost inside your body. Every pathogen you encounter today has a better chance of winning, and your immune system's ability to protect you diminishes with each passing hour of wakefulness. 2 days without sleep, and your body has just transformed into something you probably don't recognize. You've become a walking contradiction, simultaneously starving and overfed, craving everything and satisfied by nothing. Welcome to the metabolic nightmare that is sleep deprivation, where your hunger hormones have declared war on your waistline. Deep in your brain, a battle is raging between two powerful chemical messengers that control your appetite. In one corner, you have leptin, the satiety hormone that normally whispers, "You've had enough. Time to stop eating." In the other corner stands ghrelin, the hunger hormone that growls, "Feed me now," and make it substantial. Under normal circumstances, these two work together like a well-choreographed dance, keeping your appetite in perfect balance. But sleep deprivation has just thrown a wrench into this delicate choreography. After 48 hours without sleep, your leptin levels have plummeted by 18%. This hormone, produced by your fat cells during the night, is supposed to signal to your brain that you have adequate energy stores. Think of leptin as your body's fuel gauge, telling your brain when the tank is full. But without sleep, this gauge is broken, perpetually reading empty even when you've just eaten a full meal. Meanwhile, ghrelin production has spiked by 28%. This hormone, manufactured in your stomach, normally rises before meals and falls after eating. But sleep deprivation has turned ghrelin into an overzealous salesperson who never stops pitching. It's flooding your system with signals that you're desperately hungry, even if you ate an hour ago. Your stomach is essentially lying to your brain, claiming it's empty when it's actually full. But the metabolic chaos doesn't stop with appetite hormones. Your insulin sensitivity, the measure of how effectively your cells respond to this crucial hormone, has decreased by 25%. Insulin is like a key that unlocks your cells, allowing glucose to enter and provide energy. But sleep deprivation has essentially changed all the locks. Your cells are now resistant to insulin's effects, leaving glucose stranded in your bloodstream while your cells starve. This creates a vicious cycle. Your blood sugar remains elevated because your cells can't access it properly, triggering your pancreas to pump out even more insulin. Meanwhile, your brain, detecting that cells aren't getting adequate glucose, sends out hunger signals demanding more food. You end up eating more while your body becomes less capable of using that food efficiently. It's like having a car with a broken fuel injection system. You keep adding gas, but the engine can't access it properly. Your liver, the body's primary glucose factory, has also gone haywire. Normally, this organ carefully regulates blood sugar by producing glucose when needed and storing it when you have excess. But sleep deprivation disrupts this regulation, causing your liver to dump glucose into your bloodstream at inappropriate times. It's like having a warehouse manager who randomly opens all the storage containers regardless of demand. The type of food you crave has also changed dramatically. Your sleep-deprived brain is desperately seeking quick energy, driving you toward high-calorie, high-carbohydrate foods that promise immediate glucose delivery. That donut looks infinitely more appealing than a salad because your brain is operating in survival mode, convinced that you need rapid fuel replenishment. Your prefrontal cortex, which normally helps you make rational food choices, is too exhausted to override these primitive cravings. Your body's fat storage mechanisms have also shifted into overdrive. Cortisol, elevated due to the stress of sleep deprivation, promotes fat accumulation, particularly around your midsection. This stress hormone essentially tells your body to hoard energy because it perceives you're in a crisis situation. Every calorie you consume is more likely to be stored as fat rather than used for immediate energy. The reward pathways in your brain, the neural circuits that make eating pleasurable, are also compromised. Dopamine signaling, which normally provides satisfaction after eating, becomes less effective. This means you need more food to achieve the same level of satisfaction, like needing to turn up the volume on a broken radio to hear the music clearly. The result is that you eat more while enjoying it less. Your circadian rhythm, the internal clock that coordinates your metabolism, has also been severely disrupted. This biological timekeeper normally orchestrates when various metabolic processes should be active. But sleep deprivation scrambles these signals, causing your body to expect food at inappropriate times and process nutrients inefficiently. It's like having a factory where all the shift schedules have been mixed up. Your gut microbiome, the community of bacteria that helps regulate metabolism, is also suffering. Sleep deprivation alters the composition of these microbes, reducing the beneficial species that help maintain metabolic health and allowing harmful ones to flourish. Since these bacteria influence everything from nutrient absorption to hormone production. Their disruption has cascading effects throughout your metabolic system. The really insidious part is how sleep deprivation affects your perception of portion sizes. Your brain's ability to accurately gauge how much you've eaten becomes impaired, leading you to consistently underestimate your food intake. You might eat twice as much as usual while genuinely believing you've eaten normally. Your internal portion control system has essentially been hacked. Your muscles' ability to absorb and use glucose also becomes compromised. These tissues, which normally act as glucose sponges during and after meals, become less responsive to insulin. This forces your body to rely more heavily on fat storage, as glucose can't efficiently enter muscle cells where it would be used for energy or stored as glycogen. Even your taste perception changes. Sleep deprivation alters how your taste buds respond to different flavors, making you less sensitive to sweetness and more likely to add sugar or seek out sweeter foods to achieve the same taste satisfaction. Your brain is literally rewiring your food preferences toward options that will worsen your metabolic dysfunction. So, as you stand in front of the refrigerator at 3 in the morning, mechanically eating food that doesn't satisfy your hunger, remember that this isn't a failure of willpower. Your body's entire energy management system has been hijacked by exhaustion, turning you into a metabolic ghost that's simultaneously starving and overfed. 3 days without sleep, and your heart has just forgotten how to keep time. The steady, reliable rhythm that has carried you through life is now stumbling like a drunk musician trying to play a symphony. Your cardiovascular system, once a marvel of precision engineering, is operating in crisis mode. Inside your chest, your heart is struggling with a problem it was never designed to handle: the relentless stress of prolonged wakefulness. This 4-chambered pump, roughly the size of your fist, normally beats around 100,000 times per day with clockwork precision. But sleep deprivation has just thrown a wrench into this biological timepiece, and the consequences are reverberating through every blood vessel in your body. Your blood pressure, that crucial measure of how hard your heart has to work to circulate blood, has been climbing steadily. After 72 hours without sleep, your systolic pressure has increased by an average of 10 to 15 points. This might not sound dramatic, but it's like asking your heart to pump blood through a garden hose that someone has partially stepped on. Every beat requires more effort, more energy, more strain on the cardiac muscle that never gets to rest. The autonomic nervous system, your body's automatic pilot that controls heart rate and blood pressure, has lost its bearings. Normally, this system operates like a sophisticated thermostat, making tiny adjustments throughout the day to keep your cardiovascular system running smoothly. But sleep deprivation has essentially broken the thermostat, leaving your heart rate variability severely compromised. Instead of the healthy fluctuations that indicate a robust cardiovascular system, your heart rhythm is becoming rigid and unresponsive. Your stress hormones are flooding your cardiovascular system like a tsunami. Cortisol and adrenaline, meant to be released in short bursts during actual emergencies, are now bathing your heart and blood vessels in a constant chemical bath of alarm. These hormones cause your blood vessels to constrict, your heart to beat faster, and your blood to become stickier. It's like having a fire alarm that won't turn off, keeping your entire cardiovascular system in a state of perpetual emergency response. The delicate balance of electrolytes that keeps your heart beating in perfect rhythm is also disrupting. Potassium, sodium, calcium, and magnesium levels fluctuate abnormally when you're sleep deprived, affecting the electrical conduction system that coordinates each heartbeat. Your heart's natural pacemaker, the sinoatrial node, relies on these electrolytes to generate the electrical impulses that trigger each contraction. When these levels become erratic, your heart rhythm can become irregular, like an orchestra, where some musicians are playing off-beat. Your blood vessels themselves are also suffering. The endothelium, the smooth inner lining of your arteries and veins, becomes inflamed and less flexible when you're chronically sleep-deprived. These cells normally produce nitric oxide, a molecule that helps blood vessels relax and maintain healthy blood flow. But sleep deprivation reduces nitric oxide production while increasing inflammatory molecules that make blood vessels stiffer and more prone to damage. The viscosity of your blood is changing too. Sleep deprivation affects your clotting factors, making your blood thicker and more likely to form dangerous clots. Your platelets, the cellular fragments responsible for blood clotting, become more sticky and aggregated. Meanwhile, your body's natural clot-dissolving mechanisms become less effective. It's like having a plumbing system where the pipes are narrowing while the fluid flowing through them is becoming thicker and more likely to form blockages. Your heart's ability to pump efficiently is also declining. The cardiac output, the amount of blood your heart pumps each minute, decreases as sleep deprivation progresses. This isn't because your heart is beating less frequently, but because each beat is less effective. The heart muscle itself, stressed by chronic elevation of stress hormones and lack of recovery time, begins to show signs of strain. It's like having an engine that's been running at high RPMs for days without maintenance. The baroreceptors, specialized sensors in your blood vessels that help regulate blood pressure, are also malfunctioning. These tiny pressure sensors normally detect changes in blood pressure and send signals to your brain to make appropriate adjustments. But sleep deprivation dulls their sensitivity, making your cardiovascular system less responsive to the need for blood pressure regulation. Your body loses its ability to fine-tune circulation based on demand. Your kidneys, crucial partners in cardiovascular health, are struggling to maintain proper fluid balance. Sleep deprivation affects the hormones that regulate how much fluid your kidneys retain or eliminate, leading to inappropriate fluid retention that increases blood volume and puts additional strain on your heart. The renin-angiotensin system, which normally helps regulate blood pressure, becomes overactive, contributing to vasoconstriction and elevated blood pressure. The inflammatory cascade triggered by sleep deprivation is particularly damaging to your cardiovascular system. C-reactive protein, interleukin-6, and other inflammatory markers flood your bloodstream, promoting atherosclerosis and making your blood vessels more susceptible to damage. This chronic inflammation accelerates the formation of arterial plaques, the fatty deposits that can eventually block blood flow to your heart or brain. Your circadian rhythm, which normally helps coordinate cardiovascular function throughout the day, has become completely disrupted. Your blood pressure should naturally dip during the night, giving your cardiovascular system a chance to recover. But sleep deprivation eliminates this nocturnal dip, maintaining high blood pressure around the clock. It's like having a factory that never shuts down for maintenance, gradually wearing out all the equipment. Perhaps most concerning is how sleep deprivation affects your heart's electrical system. The intervals between heartbeats, measured on an electrocardiogram, begin to show abnormalities. The QT interval, the time it takes for your heart's electrical system to reset between beats, can become prolonged, increasing the risk of dangerous arrhythmias. Your heart's built-in electrical engineers are struggling to maintain stable operations. So as you feel your heart pounding in your chest after climbing a single flight of stairs, or notice that you're slightly out of breath after minimal exertion, remember that your cardiovascular system is operating under extraordinary stress. Your heart is working overtime without the recovery period it desperately needs, and every blood vessel in your body is paying the price. 4 days without sleep, and your body has begun dismantling itself at the most fundamental level. This isn't about feeling tired anymore. This is about the basic machinery of life, your cells themselves, starting to break down like a factory where all the quality control systems have failed. 0. 7. Inside every one of your 37 trillion cells, a microscopic crisis is unfolding. Your mitochondria, those tiny powerhouses that generate the energy your cells need to function, are beginning to sputter like old engines running on contaminated fuel. These cellular power plants normally operate with remarkable efficiency, converting glucose and oxygen into the ATP that fuels every biological process in your body. But after 96 hours without sleep, they're struggling to maintain even basic energy production. The problem starts with something called oxidative stress. During normal wakefulness, your cells produce reactive oxygen species as a natural byproduct of energy production. Think of these as the exhaust fumes from your cellular engines. Usually, your cells have robust antioxidant systems that neutralize these harmful molecules before they can cause damage. But sleep deprivation overwhelms these protective mechanisms, like having air pollution so thick that the city's air filtration systems simply give up. Your DNA, the instruction manual that keeps your cells functioning properly, is taking a beating. Every day, your genetic material suffers thousands of tiny breaks and errors from normal cellular activity. During sleep, sophisticated repair mechanisms scan your DNA like proofreaders, fixing these mistakes before they can accumulate into serious problems. But without adequate rest, these repair crews are working at reduced capacity while damage accelerates. It's like having a library where books are being damaged faster than librarians can repair them. The cellular cleanup process, called autophagy, has also ground to a halt. This is your cell's recycling program, where damaged proteins and cellular components are broken down and their parts reused. During sleep, autophagy ramps up dramatically, clearing out the molecular garbage that accumulates during the day. But sleep deprivation essentially shuts down the recycling plant, allowing cellular waste to pile up like trash in the streets during a sanitation strike. Your telomeres, the protective caps on the ends of your chromosomes, are also under assault. These molecular structures act like the plastic tips on shoelaces, preventing your chromosomes from fraying. Sleep deprivation accelerates telomere shortening, essentially aging your cells at the genetic level. Each shortened telomere brings your cells closer to senescence, the point where they stop dividing and begin to deteriorate. You're not just feeling older, you're becoming older at the cellular level. The protein synthesis machinery in your cells is also malfunctioning. Ribosomes, the cellular factories that build proteins according to genetic blueprints, require precise coordination to function properly. Sleep deprivation disrupts this coordination, leading to misfolded proteins that can clump together and interfere with normal cellular function. It's like having a manufacturing plant where workers are so exhausted they keep assembling products incorrectly. Your cellular membranes, the flexible barriers that control what enters and exits each cell, are becoming less stable. These lipid bilayers normally maintain strict control over molecular traffic, but sleep deprivation affects membrane composition and integrity. Essential nutrients have trouble getting in, while toxic waste products have trouble getting out. Your cells are becoming less efficient at basic housekeeping tasks. The endoplasmic reticulum, your cell's protein folding factory, is experiencing what scientists call ER stress. This organelle normally ensures that proteins are properly shaped before being sent to their cellular destinations. But sleep deprivation overwhelms this quality control system, leading to the accumulation of misfolded proteins that trigger stress responses and can eventually lead to cell death. Your stem cells, the renewable source of fresh cells throughout your body, are also suffering. These cellular reserves normally divide and differentiate to replace worn-out cells in your tissues. But sleep deprivation reduces stem cell proliferation and affects their ability to specialize into the specific cell types your body needs. Your body's repair and renewal capabilities are being systematically dismantled. The cellular communication networks that coordinate activities between different cells are breaking down. Cells normally send chemical signals to each other to coordinate complex biological processes, but sleep deprivation disrupts this intercellular communication, leading to a breakdown in the cooperative behavior that keeps your tissues and organs functioning properly. It's like having a symphony orchestra where the musicians can no longer hear each other. Your heat shock proteins, cellular chaperones that help maintain protein structure under stress, are becoming overwhelmed. These molecular guardians normally help other proteins maintain their proper shape and function, but chronic sleep deprivation depletes their reserves, leaving cellular proteins vulnerable to damage and dysfunction. Your cell's internal support systems are failing one by one. The cell cycle, the carefully orchestrated process by which cells divide and multiply, is also disrupted. Sleep deprivation affects the checkpoints that ensure cells only divide when they're healthy and properly prepared. This can lead to the proliferation of damaged cells or the inappropriate death of healthy ones. Your body's quality control for cellular reproduction is compromised. Perhaps most concerning is how sleep deprivation affects cellular senescence, the process by which old or damaged cells stop dividing and begin secreting inflammatory molecules. Normally, these senescent cells are cleared away by your immune system, but sleep deprivation increases the production of senescent cells while reducing the body's ability to eliminate them. These cellular zombies accumulate in your tissues, creating chronic inflammation and accelerating aging. Your cells' circadian clocks, the molecular timekeepers that coordinate cellular activities with the day-night cycle, are also disrupted. Nearly every cell in your body contains its own clock, synchronized with your master circadian rhythm. Sleep deprivation scrambles these cellular clocks, leading to mistimed cellular processes and reduced efficiency in everything from metabolism to DNA repair. So, as you continue to push through this fourth day without sleep, remember that the exhaustion you feel is just the tip of the iceberg. Deep within your body, at the most fundamental level of life itself, your cells are crying out for the restorative power of sleep, struggling to maintain the basic processes that keep you alive. 5 days without sleep, and your brain has just crossed a line it was never meant to cross. Reality, that solid foundation you've built your entire life upon, is now negotiable. Your mind, desperate for the dreams it's been denied, has begun creating its own twisted version of sleep while you're still awake. Welcome to the hallucinatory landscape of extreme sleep deprivation, where your brain's grip on what's real and what's imagined has become dangerously loose. This isn't the stuff of horror movies or psychiatric disorders. This is what happens to any healthy brain pushed beyond its biological limits. When the neural systems that distinguish between internal thoughts and external reality begin to malfunction. Your visual cortex, the part of your brain responsible for processing what you see, has started playing tricks on you. After 120 hours without sleep, many people begin experiencing visual hallucinations. These often start subtly: shadows moving in your peripheral vision, patterns shifting on wallpaper, or text seeming to crawl across pages. Your brain, starved of the visual processing that normally occurs during REM sleep, begins generating its own images without external input. The mechanism behind this is both fascinating and terrifying. During normal sleep, your brain cycles through different stages, including REM periods where vivid dreams occur. These dream states allow your visual cortex to process and consolidate the day's visual experiences. But when you're severely sleep deprived, parts of your brain begin entering REM-like states while you're still conscious. It's like having a movie projector that starts showing films while the lights are still on. Your temporal lobe, which houses critical memory and sensory processing centers, is also beginning to misfire. Auditory hallucinations often follow visual ones, starting with faint sounds that might be mistaken for real noises, footsteps in empty hallways, voices calling your name, phones ringing in the distance. Your auditory cortex, overwhelmed by the toxic buildup of sleep deprivation, begins generating phantom sounds that feel completely real to your conscious mind. The really disturbing part is how convincing these hallucinations become. Your brain's reality testing mechanisms, normally robust and reliable, are failing. The prefrontal cortex, which usually helps you distinguish between thoughts and perceptions, is too exhausted to perform this crucial function. You might see a person standing in your room and have a complete conversation with them, only to realize later that no one was there. Microsleep episodes are also becoming uncontrollable. These are brief periods, lasting anywhere from a fraction of a second to 30 seconds, where parts of your brain simply shut down without warning. During these episodes, you might continue performing automatic behaviors like walking or driving, but your consciousness essentially goes offline. It's like having a computer that randomly freezes while programs continue running in the background. Your attention span has fragmented into useless pieces. Tasks that normally require sustained focus become impossible as your brain jumps erratically between states of consciousness. You might start reading a sentence and find yourself staring blankly at the page 5 minutes later, with no memory of what happened in between. Your executive attention network, which normally coordinates complex mental activities, is operating like a broken air traffic control system. The boundary between dreams and waking consciousness has essentially dissolved. Dreamlike thoughts begin intruding into your waking mind without warning. You might find yourself in the middle of a conversation, suddenly talking about something completely unrelated, as if part of your brain was having a dream about that topic. These intrusions feel logical in the moment, but make no sense when you try to reconstruct them later. Your perception of time becomes severely distorted. Minutes feel like hours, while hours pass in what seems like moments. This temporal disorientation occurs because sleep deprivation disrupts the neural networks responsible for time perception. Your internal clock, normally synchronized with external cues, begins running on its own chaotic schedule. You might look at a clock, look away for what feels like 5 minutes, then discover that 2 hours have passed. Paranoid thoughts often begin creeping in around this stage. Your threat detection systems, already hyperactive from days of stress hormone exposure, start seeing danger where none exists. Innocent interactions feel loaded with hidden meaning. Casual glances from strangers seem threatening. Your brain, operating in survival mode, begins interpreting neutral stimuli as potential threats, creating a persistent sense of unease and suspicion. Your working memory, the mental workspace where you temporarily hold and manipulate information, has essentially collapsed. You might start a task, forget what you were doing midway through, and find yourself standing confused in the middle of a room. Simple, multi-step processes become impossible because your brain can't maintain the sequence of actions required to complete them. The hallucinations often take on a distinctly personal quality, incorporating familiar faces, places, and situations from your memory. Your brain, unable to properly consolidate memories during sleep, begins mixing current perceptions with stored experiences in chaotic combinations. You might see deceased relatives, childhood friends, or long-lost pets appearing in your current environment. Your language processing centers are also affected. Words might seem to lose their meaning temporarily, or you might find yourself unable to access vocabulary that's normally readily available. Conversations become difficult to follow as your brain struggles to process and respond to spoken language. Sometimes you might hear others speaking but be unable to comprehend what they're saying, as if they're speaking a foreign language. Perhaps most unsettling is the loss of insight into your own condition. Sleep deprivation impairs your ability to accurately assess your mental state. You might be experiencing obvious hallucinations while genuinely believing they're real. This lack of metacognitive awareness means you can't trust your own judgment about what's happening to you, creating a feedback loop of confusion and disorientation. Your brain's default mode network, which normally operates during rest and introspection, becomes chaotically active during waking hours. This network, which usually helps maintain your sense of self and personal narrative, begins generating random thoughts and associations that intrude into your conscious experience. Your sense of identity itself becomes fragmented and unstable. So, as you find yourself questioning whether that shadow in the corner is really there, or wondering if the voice you just heard was real, remember that your brain has begun the desperate process of creating its own version of sleep. Reality has become a luxury your exhausted mind can no longer afford to maintain. 6 days without sleep, and your body's chemical orchestra has descended into complete chaos. The hormones that once conducted the symphony of your biological functions with precise timing are now playing discordant notes, each system desperately out of sync with the others. Welcome to endocrine apocalypse, where your glands have essentially gone rogue. At the center of this hormonal hurricane sits your hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, the master control system that normally orchestrates your body's response to stress and maintains hormonal balance. Think of this as your body's central command center, where messages flow between your brain and your endocrine glands in carefully timed sequences. But after 144 hours without sleep, this communication network has broken down like a telephone system during a natural disaster. Your cortisol levels, which should follow a predictable daily rhythm, have become completely erratic. Normally, cortisol rises in the morning to help you wake up, peaks around midday, then gradually declines toward evening to prepare your body for sleep. This hormone acts like a biological alarm clock, coordinating everything from blood sugar regulation to immune function. But sleep deprivation has essentially broken this clock. leaving cortisol flooding your system at random intervals. The consequences ripple through every aspect of your physiology. Elevated cortisol suppresses your immune system, raises your blood pressure, and interferes with memory formation. But perhaps most dramatically, it completely shuts down the production of growth hormone, the crucial chemical messenger responsible for tissue repair, muscle growth, and cellular regeneration. Your body has essentially stopped investing in maintenance and repair, like a city that stopped fixing its infrastructure during a crisis. Growth hormone normally surges during the deep stages of sleep, particularly during the first few hours after you fall asleep. This nightly release triggers a cascade of restorative processes throughout your body. Damaged proteins are replaced, worn-out cells are repaired, and new tissue is constructed. But without sleep, growth hormone production plummets by up to 80%. Your body is aging faster than it can repair itself. Your thyroid system, the metabolic control center that regulates everything from heart rate to body temperature, is also in disarray. Thyroid-stimulating hormone levels become unpredictable, causing your metabolism to fluctuate wildly. You might feel simultaneously exhausted and wired, cold and overheated, hungry and nauseated. Your body's thermostat has essentially been programmed by a random number generator. The reproductive hormone cascade has also collapsed. In men, testosterone production drops significantly after just 1 week of sleep deprivation, falling to levels typically seen in men 10 to 15 years older. This isn't just about libido. Testosterone affects muscle mass, bone density, mood regulation, and cognitive function. Your body is essentially aging your reproductive system in fast forward. Women experience equally dramatic disruptions. Luteinizing hormone and follicle-stimulating hormone, which orchestrate the menstrual cycle, become irregular. Estrogen and progesterone levels fluctuate unpredictably, affecting not just reproductive function, but also mood, sleep quality, and bone health. The delicate monthly dance of female hormones transforms into an erratic stumble. Your insulin system, already compromised from earlier days of sleep deprivation, has now reached a state of near-complete dysfunction. Insulin resistance has increased dramatically, meaning your cells are essentially deaf to this hormone's signals. Meanwhile, your pancreas desperately pumps out more insulin, creating a vicious cycle that resembles the early stages of type 2 diabetes. Your blood sugar swings wildly between dangerous peaks and valleys. The hunger hormones, leptin and ghrelin, which we encountered earlier, have now reached completely dysfunctional levels. Leptin has dropped so low that your brain genuinely believes you're starving, even if you've been eating regularly. Ghrelin has spiked so high that you feel ravenously hungry regardless of how much food you consume. Your appetite control system has essentially been hijacked by hormonal chaos. Your pineal gland, the tiny structure deep in your brain responsible for producing melatonin, has also given up trying to maintain any semblance of normal function. Melatonin production, which should rise in the evening to promote sleepiness, has become completely irregular. This hormone doesn't just make you drowsy, it also acts as a powerful antioxidant and helps coordinate the circadian rhythms of every cell in your body. The parathyroid glands, which regulate calcium levels in your blood, are also affected by chronic sleep deprivation. Calcium metabolism becomes disrupted, affecting not just bone health, but also muscle contraction, nerve transmission, and blood clotting. Your body's ability to maintain the precise mineral balance required for optimal function is compromised. Your adrenal glands, which sit atop your kidneys like small hats, are now in a state of near exhaustion. These glands produce not just cortisol, but also adrenaline and noradrenaline, the hormones responsible for your fight or flight response. After days of chronic stress from sleep deprivation, they're producing these chemicals erratically, leaving you feeling simultaneously overstimulated and depleted. The antidiuretic hormone, which helps your kidneys regulate fluid balance, has also become dysregulated. This leads to inappropriate fluid retention or excessive urination, disrupting your body's careful water and electrolyte balance. You might find yourself constantly thirsty, yet retaining fluid, or urinating frequently while becoming dehydrated. Perhaps most concerning is how sleep deprivation affects hormone receptor sensitivity. Even when your glands manage to produce hormones at appropriate levels, your cells become less responsive to their signals. It's like having a radio where all the stations are playing static. The chemical messages that normally coordinate your body's functions are being transmitted but not properly received. Your circadian hormone rhythms, which normally provide temporal structure to your biological functions, have completely collapsed. The 24-hour cycles that coordinate when different hormones should be active or dormant are now random and chaotic. Your body has lost its internal sense of time, leaving every endocrine gland operating on its own confused schedule. The stress hormones flooding your system are also interfering with hormone-binding proteins, the molecular carriers that transport hormones through your bloodstream. This means that even the hormones your body does manage to produce may not reach their intended targets effectively. Your endocrine system has become like a postal service where letters are being written but never delivered. So as you struggle through this 6th day, feeling simultaneously exhausted and agitated, ravenously hungry, yet unable to enjoy food, remember that your body's entire chemical communication network has essentially collapsed. Every hormone that once worked in harmony to keep you healthy is now sending confused and contradictory signals throughout your system. 7 days without sleep, and your nervous system has transformed into a hypersensitive alarm system where everything hurts. That gentle touch on your shoulder feels like a punch. The soft hum of the refrigerator sounds like a chainsaw. The dim light from your phone screen burns like staring into the Sunday. Welcome to a world where pain has become the dominant language your body speaks. Your pain processing system, normally a sophisticated early warning network, has essentially lost its ability to distinguish between genuine threats and harmless sensations. Deep within your spinal cord and brainstem, specialized nerve pathways called nociceptors are firing inappropriately, sending alarm signals for stimuli that should barely register. It's like having a smoke detector that screams every time someone lights a candle. The ascending pain pathways that carry signals from your body to your brain have become hyperactive. These neural highways, which normally transmit only significant pain signals, are now amplifying even the gentlest sensations. A light breeze across your skin might feel like sandpaper. The pressure of clothes against your body becomes irritating and uncomfortable. Your nervous system has essentially turned up the volume on every sensation to maximum. Your brain's pain processing centers are also malfunctioning. The thalamus, which acts as a relay station for sensory information, has lost its ability to filter and prioritize pain signals. Meanwhile, your somatosensory cortex, responsible for interpreting these signals, is operating in a state of chronic hyperarousal. Every sensation is being processed as if it were a 5-alarm emergency. The descending pain modulation system, your brain's natural pain relief network, has essentially shut down. Normally, your brain can suppress pain signals when they're not useful, like when you're focused on an important task or during an emergency. This system relies on neurotransmitters like serotonin and norepinephrine to dampen pain signals before they reach consciousness. But sleep deprivation has depleted these crucial chemicals, leaving you defenseless against even minor discomfort. Inflammatory markers throughout your body have skyrocketed, creating a biochemical environment that promotes pain sensitivity. Cytokines like interleukin-1 beta and tumor necrosis factor alpha are flooding your tissues, making nerve endings more reactive to stimuli. Your immune system's inflammatory response, originally designed to help heal injuries, has become a source of chronic discomfort affecting every tissue in your body. Your muscles, continuously tense from days of stress hormone exposure, have developed trigger points and areas of chronic spasm. Without the muscle relaxation that occurs during deep sleep, these tissues remain contracted, creating persistent aches and pains. Your neck feels like it's made of steel cables. Your shoulders carry the weight of exhaustion like invisible boulders. Even your facial muscles ache from unconsciously clenching your jaw. The glial cells in your nervous system, normally supportive partners to your neurons, have become part of the problem. These cells, activated by chronic stress and sleep deprivation, begin releasing inflammatory substances that sensitize pain pathways. It's like having maintenance workers who, instead of fixing problems, start creating more damage. Your nervous system's support staff has essentially turned against you. Your headaches have evolved from occasional nuisances to constant companions. The blood vessels in your brain, affected by disrupted sleep patterns and elevated stress hormones, are in a state of chronic inflammation. Tension headaches blend seamlessly into migraine-like symptoms as your trigeminal nerve, which controls sensation in your face and head, becomes increasingly sensitized. Even your skin has become hypersensitive. The nerve endings that normally respond only to potentially harmful stimuli are now reacting to the lightest touch. This condition, called allodynia, transforms normal sensations into painful experiences. The cotton of your shirt might feel rough and irritating. A gentle pat on the back could feel like a slap. Your joint pain has intensified as inflammatory molecules accumulate in synovial fluid, the lubricant that normally allows smooth movement. Every step sends sharp signals through your knees. Your fingers ache when you type. Your spine protests when you try to sit up straight. The mechanical stress of simply existing in your body has become a source of constant discomfort. The really insidious aspect is how pain memory becomes established. Your nervous system begins creating persistent pain pathways, essentially learning to be in pain even when there's no ongoing tissue damage. These neural circuits, once formed, can continue firing long after the original cause has resolved. Your brain is literally rewiring itself to experience chronic pain. Your pain tolerance, the psychological ability to endure discomfort, has also plummeted. The prefrontal cortex regions responsible for pain, resilience, and coping strategies are too exhausted to function effectively. Minor aches that you would normally ignore now demand your full attention. Your mental resources for dealing with pain have been completely depleted. Temperature regulation has also become problematic, with your body alternating between feeling too hot and too cold. These temperature fluctuations activate additional pain pathways, as your nervous system interprets thermal changes as potential threats. You might shiver from cold while simultaneously feeling overheated, creating a confusing symphony of uncomfortable sensations. Your digestive system contributes to the pain cascade through the gut-brain axis. Sleep deprivation has disrupted your gut microbiome and increased intestinal permeability, allowing inflammatory molecules to enter your bloodstream and affect pain processing throughout your body. Even your stomach has joined the rebellion against your consciousness. The chronic pain state affects your breathing patterns, creating tension in your diaphragm and intercostal muscles. Shallow, rapid breathing becomes the norm, which further activates stress responses and amplifies pain sensitivity. Every breath becomes slightly labored, adding to your overall discomfort. Perhaps most concerning is how chronic pain begins affecting your brain structure. Persistent pain signals can actually shrink gray matter in regions responsible for pain modulation and emotional regulation. Your brain is literally changing shape in response to the constant barrage of pain signals, making recovery even more challenging. Your sleep-wake cycle, already disrupted, becomes further complicated by pain. The discomfort makes it even harder to fall asleep, while the lack of sleep increases pain sensitivity, creating a vicious cycle. Pain and sleeplessness feed each other in an escalating spiral of misery. So, as you sit there, acutely aware of every sensation in your body, remember that your nervous system has essentially declared war on comfort itself. What was once a sophisticated system for protecting you from harm has become a hypersensitive instrument of torture, turning the simple act of existing in your own skin into an endurance test. 8 days without sleep, and your body has begun rewriting its own instruction manual. Deep within the nucleus of every cell, your DNA is experiencing something that should take decades to occur naturally. Your genetic code, the fundamental blueprint that defines who you are, is being altered in real time by the relentless stress of sleep deprivation. This isn't science fiction. This is epigenetics in action. The process by which environmental factors can change how your genes are expressed without actually altering the DNA sequence itself. Think of your genes as a vast library of books, and epigenetic changes as someone going through and deciding which books should be opened, which should be closed, and which should be locked away entirely. Sleep deprivation has just handed the keys to this library to a vandal. Your tumor suppressor genes, the cellular guardians that normally prevent cancer by detecting and destroying damaged cells, are becoming less active. These genes, with names like P53 and BRCA, normally act like quality control inspectors in a factory, catching defective products before they can cause problems. But sleep deprivation is essentially telling these inspectors to take longer breaks and pay less attention to their work. Meanwhile, inflammatory genes are ramping up their activity dramatically. Genes that control the production of inflammatory molecules like interleukin-6 and C-reactive protein are being switched on at inappropriate times and remaining active far longer than they should. It's like having a fire department that not only fails to put out fires, but starts setting new ones throughout your body. The gene expression changes. Begin with something called DNA methylation, a process where small chemical tags are added to your genetic material. These methylation patterns normally follow predictable rhythms, changing gradually throughout your life in response to aging and environmental factors. But sleep deprivation accelerates this process dramatically, adding years of biological aging in just days of sleep loss. Your circadian clock genes, which normally coordinate the 24-hour rhythms of cellular activity throughout your body, have become completely dysregulated. These master timekeeping genes, including clock, BMOL1, and the period genes, are no longer maintaining their synchronized oscillations. Instead of the coordinated symphony of gene expression that normally occurs, your cells are now playing random, discordant notes. The really alarming part is how quickly these changes occur. Within just 72 hours of sleep deprivation, researchers have documented significant alterations in the expression of over 700 genes. That's roughly 3% of your entire genome being reprogrammed by exhaustion. Your cells are essentially being forced to operate with a corrupted instruction manual. Genes involved in DNA repair are among the most affected. These molecular maintenance crews normally work around the clock to fix the thousands of tiny breaks and errors that occur in your genetic material each day. But sleep deprivation downregulates these repair genes, meaning damage accumulates faster than it can be fixed. It's like having a city where the repair crews have gone on strike while the infrastructure continues to deteriorate. Your metabolic genes are also experiencing dramatic changes. Genes that control glucose metabolism, fat storage, and energy production are being switched on and off inappropriately. This genetic chaos helps explain why sleep deprivation so quickly leads to metabolic dysfunction. Your cells are literally forgetting how to process energy efficiently. The stress response genes, normally activated only during genuine emergencies, have become stuck in the on position. These genes control the production of stress hormones and inflammatory molecules, and their chronic activation creates a state of persistent cellular alarm. Your genetic machinery is essentially screaming, "Emergency 24 hours a day." Histone modifications, another form of epigenetic change, are also occurring throughout your genome. Histones are the protein spools around which your DNA is wrapped, and chemical modifications to these proteins can dramatically affect gene expression. Sleep deprivation alters these histone marks in ways that promote inflammation and inhibit cellular repair processes. Your brain cells are particularly vulnerable to these genetic changes. Neurons rely on precise gene expression patterns to maintain their complex functions, and sleep deprivation disrupts these patterns in ways that affect memory formation, emotional regulation, and cognitive performance. The genes responsible for synaptic plasticity, the brain's ability to form new connections, become less active. Perhaps most concerning are the changes occurring in genes that control cellular senescence, the process by which cells age and eventually stop dividing. Sleep deprivation accelerates the expression of senescence-associated genes while suppressing those that promote cellular renewal. Your cells are essentially being programmed to age faster and repair themselves less effectively. The immune system genes are experiencing particularly dramatic alterations. Genes that normally help coordinate effective immune responses are being downregulated, while those that promote excessive inflammation are being upregulated. This creates a situation where your immune system becomes less effective at fighting real threats, while simultaneously attacking your own tissues. Your telomere maintenance genes are also affected. These genes control the enzymes responsible for maintaining the protective caps on your chromosomes. When these genes become less active, your telomeres shorten more rapidly, accelerating cellular aging. Each cell division now brings your cells closer to senescence and death. The microRNA networks that help regulate gene expression are also disrupted by sleep deprivation. These small RNA molecules normally act like molecular switches, fine-tuning the expression of hundreds of genes simultaneously. but sleep loss alters microRNA production, creating cascading effects throughout your cellular machinery. What makes these changes particularly dangerous is their potential permanence. While some epigenetic modifications reverse when normal sleep is restored, others may persist for months or even years. Sleep deprivation isn't just temporarily disrupting your cellular function. It may be creating lasting changes in how your genes operate. The oxidative stress genes, normally activated to protect cells from damage, become overwhelmed and start shutting down. Meanwhile, genes that normally limit oxidative damage become less active. This creates a perfect storm where your cells produce more harmful free radicals while simultaneously becoming less capable of defending against them. Your autophagy genes, which control the cellular recycling processes we discussed earlier, are also being downregulated. The genetic programs that normally clear out cellular waste and damaged proteins are being suppressed, allowing toxic accumulations to build up within your cells. So, as you continue through this 8th day of sleep deprivation, remember that the exhaustion you feel is just the surface manifestation of something much deeper. At the most fundamental level of your biology, your genetic identity is being rewritten by exhaustion, potentially creating changes that could affect your health for years to come. 9 days without sleep, and you've become a stranger to everyone who knows you. The social creature that once navigated complex human relationships with intuitive grace has been replaced by someone who can't recognize emotions, misinterprets intentions, and sees threats in every friendly gesture. You haven't just lost the ability to sleep, you've lost the ability to be human in the company of others. Your brain's social cognition networks, some of the most sophisticated neural circuits ever evolved, are shutting down one by one. The superior temporal sulcus, which normally helps you read facial expressions and understand social cues, is operating at a fraction of its normal capacity. That concerned look from a friend registers as anger. A neutral expression appears hostile. A genuine smile seems fake and manipulative. Your social radar has become so scrambled that you're essentially navigating human interaction blind. The fusiform face area, a specialized region of your brain dedicated to recognizing faces, is also malfunctioning. After 216 hours without sleep, this area shows dramatically reduced activity when processing familiar faces. You might look at your spouse, your children, or your closest friends and feel a disturbing sense of unfamiliarity. Their faces register as human, but the warm recognition that normally accompanies seeing loved ones is absent. Your mirror neuron system, the neural network that helps you understand others by mentally simulating their actions and emotions, has gone offline. These specialized cells normally fire both when you perform an action and when you observe someone else performing the same action, creating the foundation for empathy and social understanding. But sleep deprivation has essentially disconnected you from this shared neural experience, leaving you isolated in your own mental world. The medial prefrontal cortex, crucial for theory of mind and understanding what others are thinking, is too exhausted to function properly. This region normally helps you model other people's mental states, predict their behavior, and understand their motivations. Without it operating effectively, everyone around you becomes unpredictable and potentially threatening. You can no longer put yourself in someone else's shoes because your brain lacks the energy to imagine what those shoes might feel like. Your ability to process emotional prosody, the subtle changes in tone and inflection that convey meaning beyond words, has deteriorated dramatically. When someone says fine in response to your question about how they're doing, you can no longer detect whether they mean actually fine, frustrated, fine, or devastatingly not fine. The emotional subtleties that normally guide social interaction have become invisible to your sleep-deprived brain. Social anxiety has also intensified to paranoid levels. Your amygdala, already hyperactive from days of sleep deprivation, now interprets neutral social situations as threatening. A group of people talking quietly must be talking about you. Laughter from another room is definitely at your expense. Casual glances feel like hostile stares. Your brain has essentially activated a social threat detection system that sees enemies everywhere. Your executive control over social behavior has collapsed. The prefrontal regions that normally help you filter your thoughts before speaking are too depleted to function effectively. You might blurt out inappropriate comments, interrupt conversations rudely, or respond to questions with rambling, incoherent answers. The social filter that usually prevents you from saying whatever pops into your head has been switched off. The temporal parietal junction, which helps you distinguish between self and other, is also affected. This can lead to a disturbing blurring of boundaries where you might briefly forget whether a thought or experience belongs to you or someone else. During conversations, you might lose track of what you've said versus what the other person has said, leading to confusing exchanges where you argue against points you actually made yourself. Your working memory deficits make following conversations nearly impossible. By the time someone reaches the end of a sentence, you've forgotten how it began. You might ask the same question multiple times or give responses that are completely unrelated to what was just discussed. Others begin to notice your confusion, which only increases your social anxiety and makes interactions even more stressful. The oxytocin and vasopressin systems, which normally promote social bonding and trust, are disrupted by chronic sleep deprivation. These hormones help create feelings of connection and social warmth, but their disruption leaves you feeling emotionally isolated, even in the company of loved ones. The neurochemical foundation of human bonding has been compromised. Your ability to regulate emotional expression has also broken down. You might laugh inappropriately at serious moments, become teary during casual conversations, or display anger disproportionate to minor social friction. Others begin walking on eggshells around you, unsure which version of your personality they'll encounter from moment to moment. The really tragic aspect is how these social deficits create a feedback loop of isolation. As your behavior becomes more erratic and your interpretations more paranoid, people naturally begin avoiding interactions with you. This social withdrawal confirms your sleep-deprived brain's suspicion that others are indeed hostile or untrustworthy, reinforcing the very paranoia that drove them away in the first place. Your ability to maintain appropriate social distance and personal boundaries also deteriorates. You might stand too close to people during conversations, making them uncomfortable, or conversely maintain such rigid distance that you appear cold and unfriendly. The intuitive sense of social space that normally guides these interactions has been disrupted. Language processing becomes increasingly difficult in social contexts. While you might still function adequately when reading or writing alone, the rapid back and forth of conversation overwhelms your compromised cognitive resources. You might struggle to find words, lose your train of thought mid-sentence, or misunderstand simple statements. Perhaps most disturbing is the loss of social timing. You might interrupt others constantly, fail to respond when it's your turn to speak, or launch into monologues during what should be brief exchanges. The delicate rhythm of human conversation, normally as natural as breathing, becomes a complex dance you can no longer follow. Your capacity for social learning, the ability to adjust your behavior based on social feedback, is also impaired. When others show signs of discomfort or confusion in response to your behavior, you might not notice these cues or might misinterpret them as confirmation of your paranoid suspicions. The normal feedback mechanisms that help maintain social relationships have been severed. The cumulative effect is profound social alienation. You become like an actor who's forgotten their lines in a play where everyone else still knows the script. Every social interaction becomes a potential minefield, every conversation a source of stress rather than connection. You're surrounded by people, but utterly alone in your sleep-deprived confusion. So, as you find yourself avoiding phone calls, canceling social plans, and feeling increasingly isolated from the people who care about you, remember that this isn't a character flaw or personal failing. Your brain has simply lost the sophisticated neural machinery required to navigate the complex social world that defines human existence. 10 days without sleep, and your body has reached the point where basic survival systems are beginning to fail. This isn't dramatic hyperbole or creative license. This is the documented reality of what happens when the human organism is pushed beyond its absolute biological limits. Multiple organ systems that have carried you through life with reliable precision are now sending out distress signals that can no longer be ignored. Your cardiovascular system, already strained from days of elevated stress hormones and disrupted regulation, is showing signs of serious dysfunction. Your heart rhythm has become increasingly irregular, with episodes of arrhythmia occurring more frequently. The electrical conduction system that normally coordinates each heartbeat with mechanical precision is misfiring like a broken metronome. Blood pressure regulation has become so erratic that you might experience dangerous spikes followed by precipitous drops within minutes. Your kidneys, the sophisticated filtration systems that maintain your body's chemical balance, are struggling to keep up with the toxic load created by prolonged sleep deprivation. Creatinine levels in your blood are rising, indicating that these organs can no longer efficiently clear waste products from your system. The delicate balance of electrolytes that keeps your nerves and muscles functioning properly is becoming increasingly unstable. Temperature regulation has essentially collapsed. Your hypothalamus, the brain's thermostat, can no longer maintain your core body temperature within the narrow range required for optimal cellular function. You might shiver uncontrollably while your skin feels burning hot, or feel freezing cold while your body temperature actually runs dangerously high. This thermoregulatory chaos affects every biochemical process in your body. Your liver, already overwhelmed by the metabolic demands of processing stress hormones and inflammatory molecules, is showing signs of dysfunction. Liver enzymes in your bloodstream are elevated, indicating cellular damage to this crucial organ. The liver's ability to detoxify your blood, synthesize essential proteins, and regulate blood sugar is becoming increasingly compromised. Respiratory function is also deteriorating. Your breathing patterns have become irregular and inefficient, with periods of rapid, shallow breathing alternating with episodes where you might briefly stop breathing altogether. The respiratory centers in your brainstem, which normally control breathing automatically, are being disrupted by the neurochemical chaos of extreme sleep deprivation. Your gastrointestinal system has essentially shut down normal operations. Digestive enzymes are produced erratically, gut motility has become unpredictable, and the protective mucus lining of your stomach and intestines is breaking down. Food sits undigested in your stomach for hours, while harmful bacteria proliferate in your intestines due to compromised immune surveillance. The blood-brain barrier, that crucial protective membrane that keeps toxins out of your neural tissue, is becoming increasingly permeable. Substances that should never enter your brain are now leaking through this compromised barrier, while essential nutrients struggle to reach your neurons. Your brain is simultaneously being poisoned and starved at the cellular level. Your bone marrow, the factory that produces blood cells, has dramatically reduced its output. Red blood cell production has slowed, reducing your blood's oxygen carrying capacity. White blood cell production is erratic, leaving you vulnerable to infections. Platelet production is also affected, compromising your blood's ability to clot properly and heal wounds. Muscle function is deteriorating rapidly. Your skeletal muscles, deprived of the restorative processes that normally occur during sleep, are beginning to break down faster than they can repair themselves. Muscle proteins are being degraded and not replaced, leading to weakness and muscle wasting that becomes apparent even after just 10 days. Your endocrine system has moved beyond dysfunction into complete chaos. Hormone production has become so erratic that your body can no longer maintain homeostasis. Growth hormone production has virtually ceased. Cortisol levels fluctuate wildly, and insulin resistance has progressed to dangerous levels where your blood sugar regulation resembles uncontrolled diabetes. The autonomic nervous system, which controls all the automatic functions that keep you alive, is failing in its most basic responsibilities. Heart rate, blood pressure, breathing, digestion, and temperature regulation are all becoming increasingly unstable. It's like having a building where all the automated systems are malfunctioning simultaneously. Your body's pH balance, normally maintained within an extremely narrow range, is beginning to shift. The buffering systems that keep your blood chemistry stable are being overwhelmed by the metabolic chaos of prolonged sleep deprivation. Even small changes in pH can affect enzyme function throughout your body, creating cascading failures in biochemical processes. Cellular energy production has declined to critical levels. Your mitochondria, already struggling for days, are now producing so little ATP that basic cellular functions are becoming difficult to maintain. Cells throughout your body are essentially running on empty, unable to perform the energy-intensive processes required for survival. The situation bears an eerie resemblance to fatal familial insomnia, a rare genetic disorder where people gradually lose the ability to sleep and eventually die from the complications of total sleep deprivation. While your condition is self-imposed rather than genetic, the physiological processes are remarkably similar: progressive organ failure, autonomic dysfunction, and eventual systemic collapse. Your brain's waste clearance system has completely failed. The glymphatic system, which we discussed early in this journey, has been essentially non-functional for days. Toxic proteins are now accumulating to levels that directly interfere with neural function. The cellular environment in your brain has become so toxic that neurons are beginning to die from the poisonous accumulation of their own waste products. Perhaps most alarming is that your body's stress response systems are beginning to fail. After 10 days of constant activation, your adrenal glands can no longer produce adequate amounts of stress hormones. This adrenal exhaustion leaves your body unable to mount appropriate responses to even minor stressors, creating a state of physiological vulnerability where small challenges could trigger catastrophic system failures. your immune system has essentially surrendered. With virtually no functional white blood cells and a compromised inflammatory response, you're now vulnerable to infections that would normally be easily controlled. A simple cut could become dangerously infected, and exposure to common viruses could result in life-threatening illness. The human body, for all its remarkable resilience and adaptability, was never designed to function without sleep for extended periods. What you're experiencing now is the biological equivalent of a complex machine running without maintenance until its essential components begin to fail. Catastrophically, every system that has sustained your life is now crying out for the restorative power of sleep that only you can provide. In 1959, a 17-year-old high school student named Randy Gardner made a decision that would push the boundaries of human endurance and give science its most detailed. Look at what happens when sleep deprivation reaches its absolute limit. His goal was simple: stay awake longer than anyone had before and document what happened along the way. What unfolded over the next 11 days would become one of the most important sleep studies ever conducted. Gardner wasn't attempting this feat alone or without oversight. Stanford sleep researcher William Dement monitored him closely throughout the experiment, along with a team of medical professionals who documented every change in his physical and mental state. This wasn't a reckless stunt, but a carefully observed scientific endeavor that would provide unprecedented insights into the human need for sleep. The first 24 hours proceeded much as you might expect. Gardner experienced the typical symptoms of sleep deprivation: difficulty concentrating, mild irritability, and the familiar feeling of heavy eyelids. His reaction times slowed slightly, and he reported feeling somewhat foggy, but these changes were manageable and fell within the range of what many people experience after an all-nighter. By the second day, more concerning symptoms began to emerge. Gardner's speech became slurred at times, and he had difficulty with tasks requiring sustained attention. His eyes began showing signs of strain, and he experienced his first episodes of microsleep, those brief moments where parts of his brain essentially shut down without his conscious awareness. The third day brought the first signs of serious cognitive impairment. Gardner struggled with simple arithmetic and had difficulty remembering recent events. His mood became increasingly irritable, and he began experiencing mild, paranoid thoughts. The monitoring team noted that his EEG patterns showed abnormal brainwave activity even while he was awake. By day 4, Gardner was experiencing significant perceptual distortions. He reported seeing fog where there was none, and became convinced that a street sign was actually a person. His speech became increasingly incoherent, and he had difficulty following simple conversations. The boundaries between waking and dreaming consciousness were beginning to blur. Day 5 brought the first true hallucinations. Gardner saw objects that weren't there and heard sounds that existed only in his sleep-deprived brain. He became paranoid about the researchers monitoring him, convinced at times that they were plotting against him. His motor coordination deteriorated significantly, and he struggled with tasks as simple as walking in a straight line. The middle days of the experiment, 6 through 8, were marked by increasingly severe symptoms. Gardner's hallucinations became more frequent and vivid. He experienced episodes where he believed he was other people, including a famous football player. His memory became so impaired that he couldn't remember events that had occurred just minutes earlier. Temperature regulation became problematic around day 7. Gardner's body struggled to maintain normal temperature, and he experienced episodes of both excessive heat and cold. His blood pressure became unstable, and his heart rate showed irregular patterns. The physiological strain was becoming as concerning as the psychological symptoms. By day 9, Gardner's condition had deteriorated to the point where constant supervision was necessary. He could no longer perform simple tasks without assistance and had lost much of his ability to communicate coherently. His hallucinations were nearly constant, and he lived in a confused state where reality and imagination were indistinguishable. The final 2 days of the experiment were perhaps the most revealing. Gardner's brain showed patterns similar to those seen in various psychiatric conditions, yet these changes were entirely due to sleep deprivation. His immune system showed signs of severe compromise, and his hormone levels were chaotic. Every major biological system was showing signs of stress. What made Gardner's case particularly valuable to science was the detailed documentation of his recovery. When he finally fell asleep after 264 hours of continuous wakefulness, he slept for 14 hours and 47 minutes. His sleep was deeper than normal, with extended periods of slow-wave sleep as his brain desperately tried to catch up on the restorative processes it had been denied. The recovery process was remarkably swift in some ways, surprisingly slow in others. Gardner's hallucinations and paranoid thoughts disappeared within hours of adequate sleep. His cognitive function improved dramatically after just one night of rest, though subtle deficits persisted for several days. His physical symptoms resolved more gradually, with some markers of physiological stress remaining elevated for over a week. What surprised researchers most was Gardner's resilience. Despite experiencing severe symptoms during the deprivation period, he showed no lasting effects from his ordeal. His brain's ability to recover from such extreme sleep loss demonstrated the remarkable plasticity of the human nervous system and the body's capacity for healing when given the opportunity. The Gardner experiment provided crucial insights into the progressive nature of sleep deprivation effects. It showed that while the human body can survive extended periods without sleep, the costs are severe and affect every aspect of physiological and psychological function. The study also demonstrated that sleep serves multiple critical functions that cannot be replaced by any other activity. Perhaps most importantly, Gardner's experience revealed that sleep isn't a luxury or a weakness, but a fundamental biological necessity. The dramatic symptoms he experienced weren't signs of personal failure, but predictable consequences of denying the brain and body their most basic need for restoration and recovery. Modern sleep research has built upon Gardner's pioneering experiment, using advanced brain imaging and biochemical analysis to understand the mechanisms underlying his experience. We now know that the symptoms he endured result from specific disruptions in neurotransmitter systems, hormonal cascades, and cellular repair processes. The ethical considerations raised by Gardner's experiment mean that such extreme sleep deprivation studies are no longer conducted with human subjects. The risks are now understood to be too severe to justify experimental replication. Gardner's sacrifice gave science invaluable data while highlighting the absolute importance of protecting sleep as a basic human need. Randy Gardner's 11-day journey into sleeplessness remains a testament to both human endurance and the fundamental importance of sleep, proving that while we can survive without it temporarily, we cannot truly live without it indefinitely. Finally, after what feels like an eternity of biological chaos, you surrender. Your eyelids heavy as lead curtains, close for the first time in days, your racing mind begins to quiet. your tortured body starts to relax. And in that first precious moment of sleep, something miraculous begins to happen. Your cells, your organs, your entire being exhales in relief as the most powerful healing force in biology finally returns to work. The moment you fall asleep, your brain immediately shifts into emergency repair mode. Your glymphatic system, that crucial waste management network we discussed at the beginning of this journey, springs back to life with remarkable intensity. Cerebrospinal fluid begins flowing through your brain tissue at rates 60% higher than normal, like a dam suddenly opening to release a flood of cleansing water through drought-stricken land. Within minutes, the toxic proteins that have been accumulating in your neural tissue begin dissolving away. Beta amyloid plaques, tau tangles, and other molecular debris that threaten to choke your neurons are swept up in the rushing tide of restorative fluid. Your astrocytes, those star-shaped brain cells, shrink dramatically to create wider channels for this cleansing process, like workers stepping aside to let emergency crews through. Your hippocampus, that beleaguered memory center, immediately begins the process of consolidating the fragmented experiences of the past few days. The theta rhythms that coordinate memory formation return with a vengeance, working overtime to sort through the chaos and file away what's worth remembering while discarding the rest. It's like having a librarian who's been locked out, finally returning to organize a library that's been ransacked. Sleep stages begin cycling in their ancient, reliable pattern. Light sleep gives way to deep, slow-wave sleep, where your brain waves synchronize in long, rolling patterns that coordinate repair activities throughout your nervous system. Your neurons, finally freed from the constant demands of consciousness, can focus entirely on maintenance and restoration. Your cardiovascular system responds almost immediately to sleep's return. Blood pressure drops as your blood vessels relax for the first time in days. Your heart rate slows and becomes more variable, a sign of healthy autonomic function returning. The chronic inflammation that has been ravaging your circulatory system begins to subside as anti-inflammatory processes kick into gear. Growth hormone production surges to levels far higher than normal, as your pituitary gland desperately tries to make up for lost time. This hormonal flood triggers cellular repair processes throughout your body. Damaged proteins are broken down and replaced. Worn-out cellular components are rebuilt. Your muscles, which have been slowly cannibalizing themselves, finally begin the process of repair and regeneration. Your immune system awakens from its forced slumber with renewed vigor. T-cell production ramps up dramatically, while natural killer cells regain their lethal efficiency. The inflammatory chaos that has been wreaking havoc throughout your body begins to resolve, as your immune system remembers how to distinguish between genuine threats and chaos, harmless stimuli. REM sleep, when it finally arrives, brings its own special form of healing. Your brain begins processing the emotional turmoil of the past few days, integrating traumatic experiences and restoring emotional equilibrium. The amygdala and prefrontal cortex, which have been locked in dysfunction, conflict, begin communicating normally again as REM sleep facilitates emotional regulation. Your metabolic systems start resetting themselves with remarkable speed. Insulin sensitivity begins improving within hours as your cells remember how to respond appropriately to this crucial hormone. Leptin and ghrelin levels start normalizing, though it will take several days for your appetite regulation to fully recover from the chaos of sleep deprivation. The genetic chaos we explored earlier begins reversing itself as sleep restores normal patterns of gene expression. Tumor suppressor genes become more active while inflammatory genes are downregulated. The epigenetic changes that accumulated during your sleepless ordeal begin slowly reversing, though some may persist for weeks or months. Your pain sensitivity decreases dramatically as sleep restores normal functioning to your pain processing pathways. The hyperactive nociceptors that have been amplifying every sensation begin calming down. Your brain's natural pain suppression systems come back online, providing relief from the constant discomfort that has plagued you for days. Temperature regulation normalizes as your hypothalamus regains its ability to maintain thermal homeostasis. The wild fluctuations between hot and cold that characterized your sleep-deprived state give way to stable, comfortable body temperature. Your circadian rhythms begin reasserting themselves, providing temporal structure to your biological processes. The hallucinations and perceptual distortions that mark the final stages of your sleep deprivation disappear entirely within the first few hours of sleep. Your brain's reality testing mechanisms come back online, restoring the clear boundary between internal thoughts and external perceptions. The frightening dissolution of consciousness that characterized extreme sleep loss gives way to normal, integrated awareness. Perhaps most remarkably, your social cognition begins recovering almost immediately. The facial recognition systems that failed you during the worst of your sleep deprivation start functioning normally again. Your ability to read emotions, understand social cues, and maintain appropriate relationships returns as sleep restores the neural networks that make us fundamentally human. The recovery process isn't uniform or immediate. Some systems bounce back within hours, while others require days or weeks to fully heal. Your cognitive function improves rapidly, but subtle deficits in attention and memory may persist for several days. Physical symptoms resolve more gradually, with some markers of physiological stress remaining elevated for over a week. What's most striking about sleep's restorative power is how automatic and comprehensive it is. You don't have to consciously direct these healing processes. Sleep itself contains the biological wisdom accumulated over millions of years of evolution, knowing exactly what needs to be repaired and in what order. Your brain prioritizes the most critical repairs first, clearing toxic waste, restoring neurotransmitter balance, and re-establishing basic cognitive function. Then it moves on to more complex processes like memory consolidation, emotional integration, and hormonal regulation. It's like having a master mechanic who knows exactly how to rebuild a damaged engine. The gratitude your cells express for sleep's return is almost palpable. Mitochondria begin producing energy efficiently again. DNA repair mechanisms spring back into action. Cellular recycling systems resume their crucial work. Every aspect of your biology exhales in relief as the fundamental process that sustains life finally returns. Sleep doesn't just repair the damage from sleep deprivation. It prepares your body and mind for the challenges ahead, ensuring you wake not just restored, but resilient, ready to face whatever tomorrow might bring with the full power of a properly rested human being. So here we are, at the end of our journey through the landscape of sleep deprivation. Remember how we started? You, lying there at 2 a.m, scrolling through your phone, telling yourself just 5 more minutes before sleep. Perhaps you were tossing and turning, your mind racing with tomorrow's worries while your body screamed for rest. That person feels like a lifetime ago now, doesn't it? We've traveled together through the slow-motion catastrophe that unfolds when sleep is denied. We've witnessed your brain drowning in its own waste as the lymphatic system ground to a halt. We've watched your memories dissolve like sugar in rain as your hippocampus forgot how to file away the day's experiences. We've seen your emotions hijack your rational mind as your amygdala declared war on your prefrontal cortex. We've observed your immune system raise the white flag of surrender, leaving you defenseless against threats both microscopic and existential. We've tracked the metabolic rebellion that transformed your body into a hungry ghost, simultaneously starving and overfed. We've felt your heart forget its rhythm as cardiovascular chaos spread through every blood vessel in your body. We've descended into the cellular apocalypse where your very DNA began rewriting itself under the pressure of exhaustion. We've experienced reality becoming negotiable as hallucinations crept into your waking world. We've witnessed the hormonal pandemonium that left every gland in your body sending confused chemical messages into the void. We've endured the transformation of your nervous system into a hypersensitive instrument of torture, where every sensation became amplified beyond recognition. We've watched your genetic code itself buckle under the weight of sleep deprivation, activating tumor-promoting genes while silencing those that protect and repair. We've seen you become a stranger to everyone who knows you as social cognition networks collapse one by one. We've reached the terrifying precipice where multiple organ systems began their final descent toward failure, mimicking the progression seen in fatal familial insomnia. We've learned from Randy Gardner's heroic sacrifice, understanding both the limits of human endurance and the remarkable resilience of recovery. And finally, we've experienced the sweet biological symphony of restoration as sleep returned to heal what seemed irreparable. Through it all, one truth has emerged with crystal clarity. Sleep isn't a luxury, a sign of weakness, or time stolen from productivity. Sleep is the fundamental biological process that makes every other aspect of life possible. It's not something you fit into your schedule when convenient. It's the foundation upon which your health, your relationships, your creativity, and your very sanity are built. The science we've explored together isn't abstract theory. It's the lived reality of what happens inside your body every single night you choose to stay awake. Every time you tell yourself you'll catch up on sleep later, you're setting in motion the same cascade of biological chaos we've just witnessed. Every time you sacrifice sleep for work, entertainment, or worry, you're asking your 37 trillion cells to operate without the restoration they desperately need. But here's the remarkable thing about the human body: its capacity for forgiveness and healing. Unlike so many other forms of damage we can inflict upon ourselves, sleep deprivation is almost entirely reversible. Your brain can clear its toxic waste. Your immune system can rebuild its defenses. Your hormones can find their rhythm again. Your genes can remember their proper expression patterns. Your social connections can be restored. The journey we've taken together through the biology of sleep deprivation has revealed something profound about what it means to be human. We are not machines that can run indefinitely on willpower and caffeine. We are biological beings whose every cell has evolved over millions of years to depend on the daily cycle of wakefulness and rest. To deny this is to deny our very nature. Sleep is not the enemy of productivity, it's the source of it. It's not time lost, it's time invested in every hour you'll be awake tomorrow. It's not a sign that you're not working hard enough. It's evidence that you understand how the human body actually works. The most successful, creative, and resilient people in any field are those who have learned to honor their biological needs rather than fight against them. Tonight, when you finally close your eyes and surrender to sleep, remember everything we've discovered together. Feel gratitude for the glymphatic system that will wash away the day's neural waste. Appreciate the memory consolidation that will organize your experiences into wisdom. Marvel at the immune cells that will patrol your body while you rest, the growth hormone that will repair your tissues, the dreams that will process your emotions. Your sleep isn't selfish, it's generous. When you sleep well, you show up better for everyone in your life. You make better decisions, regulate your emotions more effectively, and contribute more meaningfully to your relationships and work. You're not sleeping just for yourself. You're sleeping for everyone who depends on you being your best self. So tonight, I want you to do something different. Instead of scrolling through your phone or lying awake worrying about tomorrow, make sleep a priority. Create the conditions your body needs. Dim the lights, cool the room, put away the screens. Give your biology the respect it deserves. Honor the 37 trillion cells that carry you through each day by giving them the rest they're crying out for. Before you go, take a moment to like this video if it's helped you understand the profound importance of sleep, and subscribe if you want to continue exploring the fascinating world of human biology together. But more importantly, share in the comments. What's one thing you're going to change about your sleep habits after taking this journey? What commitment are you willing to make to the remarkable biological machine that is your body? Sleep well, knowing that every moment of rest is an act of profound self-care and biological wisdom. Your cells are waiting, your brain is ready, and your body knows exactly what to do. All you have to do is close your eyes and let millions of years of evolution take care of the rest.